broadcasting from the studios of AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and airing on WCPTA 20, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Welcome to the Gailey Show, the only daily LGBTQ radio news and talk show in these United States. I'm your host, John Parker. It is Friday, and we end our weeks talking about culture and entertainment for a number of reasons, one of which is that LGBTQ artists, writers, filmmakers, and theater makers are one of the most censored groups in America today. So every week we want to do our best to lift up their work for that you can read, watch, and attend if you're in Minneapolis and or Chicago. So what is on the show today? Nicole Disney's newest novel, Tap Out, came out earlier this month. It's an LGBT plus sports romance and a follow-up to her award-winning book, The Clinch. She'll be here to talk about it. But up first, Ilana Masad is a novelist and book critic. You've read her work in The New Yorker, NPR, The Atlantic, Catapult, and BuzzFeed, and many more. She is the author of the novel All My Mother's Lovers, and just out this week, Beings. All My Mother's Lovers came out in 2020. It was on, let's just say, a lot of best books of 2020 lists. New novel, Beings. Also, you can catch Ilana in conversation with Jordy Rosenberg on This Queer Book Saved My Life, hosted by yours truly. And that episode dropped earlier this summer. You can find it everywhere you get your podcast and at thisqueerbook.com. Ilana, welcome to The Gailey Show.
Thank you so much, John.
All right, Ilana. Ilana, what are you trying to do to me? I'm just here trying my best to survive the hellscape, and then you come along and you're like, no, you're going to feel feelings. Gorgeous book cover. I'm trying to hold it up for our folks on YouTube. Okay. A retelling of the first alien abductees, and then a lesbian science fiction writer in 1960s Boston. Mm-hmm. And then in the present day, a character known as the archivist, who's just trying to make sense of their own life and basically falling in love with this past that they're researching and archiving. Tell folks what is happening here.
Well, it's a book about alienation and aliens. It's a book about archives. It's about yearning and the desire to connect. And it's about loneliness and the ways that we can assuage loneliness, which is so often simply by having community or people who can understand us, right? It came to me really from learning about the first alien abductees, the Hills, and one of the reasons I think that they resonated with me so much was because they did not seek publicity for what they went through. They were basically outed in 1965, and I just thought that was fascinating. Because, like their address was printed in the newspaper, which was also what would happen if you were a gay person who was arrested at a gay bar in the 1960s. Your name would be printed, your address sometimes would be printed, like your boss could find out easily, you could be fired. And so just this notion of outing around something that people think makes you crazy felt so relevant to me and to us and to our people and our queer community.
Mm-hmm. So you start with Barney and Betty Hill, and right off the bat, I hope I'm not giving anything away because it's literally the first chapter. Yes. They're driving along, and when they encounter a UFO, and I loved how just grounded that scene was, and how you're just sort of the psychology of them just trying to figure out, like, no, this is what this is. No, this is what this is. You know what I mean? They're sort of, you're just walking us through each moment there. Like, it wasn't sensationalized at all. And it really kind of it built up this tension as you're going along. And I'm like, woof, what a way to start the book. But then you kind of get into okay, what next? Like, who do you even tell about this? Because they, as you lay out for us, they weren't seeking publicity here, but you're doing a retelling of their story. So tell us about that.
Yeah. So I first, learned about them from a podcast, and then I started doing my own research, and they have a Wikipedia page, and of course people have written about them and have podcasted about them and have made shitty History Channel series about them or mentioning them. Oh, swearing? Is swearing okay?
We'll bleep that out.
Great.
It's
Sorry.
already getting bleeped out for people listening right now.
All right, great. Sorry. Yeah, so I was researching them, and then I found out that they had archives. So the University of New Hampshire has boxes and boxes of their stuff. And I started reading through it. But in finding out that they were outed, right, that they really did not seek publicity, but then once they were outed, they contacted a journalist, John G. Fuller, who was already writing about UFO sightings in their area. The Exeter incident, or the incident at Exeter, is the book that he was writing at the time. And he ended up writing a book about them with their cooperation. And so there's like, their words are verbatim in the book, like it's a lot of it is interviews. And then some of it is the transcripts of their psychiatric appointments where they were getting hypnosis therapy. And I just kept thinking about the fact that they were used in this way by the public, right? Like they were laughing stocks, but also such a sensational kind of story. They were outed literally the week before Halloween. Like it was in a 5-part series. So it feels very clear that it was, the equivalent of clickbait today, right? It was like, ooh, look at this UFO story, spooky, right before the spooky season. But I didn't feel like I could tell their story specifically. And that's part of the tension that I try to grapple with in the book, because of course, anytime you write about anyone else, you're inventing, right? I mean, any story we tell about anyone else, where it is going through our own minds, our own interpretations, our own psychologies. Everything affects how we tell a story. And so I was very nervous at first when I started writing this, and just felt like I really couldn't. And for quite a while, I was in a lot of sort of my own psychic pain about whether I could or couldn't, should or shouldn't. And finally, I decided, okay, I'm going to write into this feeling, into this question. And so that's kind of how I arrived at the novel's first line, which is, this is how I like to imagine them. And then I added another layer of distance by having not me be that narrator, but having another character be the narrator who is narrating those sections. And so I just wanted to grapple with what it means to tell a version of a story, and to realize as you're going that you are embellishing, you are inventing, you are making them your own. They become your own. And so while I hope that that if they could read it, they would see it as an act of love, I can't know, and that's part of the terrifying reality of having a book in the world.
We're talking with novelist Ilana Masad, author of the new novel Beings, out in bookstores and on bookshop.org this week. I also love is it breaking the fourth wall or asides that you give to the reader of the narrator, sort of going, okay, this is why I'm making the writerly choices that I'm making and telling their story. And I really appreciated that. Speaking of writers, then you also have Phyllis, who is, and we get to know Phyllis through a series of letters that she is writing to Rosa, who was her, okay, this isn't the first letter, so I hope that it's pretty obvious that it's her best friend and most likely, first love.
Yes.
And we ultimately get a lot of her life that we're reading through these letters to Rosa. The first question, though, that I have to you, because I've had maybe too many writers come on and go, I've been researching the 20th century, like the 20s or the 30s or the 50s, and basically nothing's changed. And so when you were getting into 1960s Boston, was it the same experience for you?
Well, yes and no, right? Of course, some things have changed, right? While many of us, I think, agree that gay marriage is certainly not enough and was never maybe the only sort of right we wanted to hang our hats on, it does exist now. That is something that people can do, which is great, which of course they couldn't do then. We no longer categorize being gay or lesbian as a mental illness. However, of course, now we're in a time when
Half of
trans
America
issues,
doesn't.
half of America doesn't. Okay. But like, what I mean is like the DSM no longer has
Right.
homosexuality listed in it. You know, like psychiatrists don't think it's a mental illness. But of course, now we have all of this media saying that transness and gender identity or gender dysphoria, that all of these things are mental illnesses and that they need to be cured, but like not that way, not by giving people what will help them, right? So bizarre. And so like in some ways, of course, things are different, and in some ways they're not. What I will say is very different, at least in an urban setting, right? Is that now we don't have to hide quite as much in like centers, in what we now would call like blue or purple urban centers, by which I mean our gay bars don't have to be hidden behind some facade. They don't have to be papered over. The window doesn't have to be papered over so no one can see inside. Maybe that'll change again. I don't know. But and you know, we have the opposite problem, right? Where so many gay bars are closing simply because queer people feel fine going to regular bars, right? We don't always need our spaces in the same way we did, which is this kind of weird double-edged sword.
Yes, this is all paralleling what I've been hearing from other authors. I have to fit in a break here. We're going to have more with Ilana talking about their new novel, Beings. Before we take that break, I want to share with you about our travel partner, Travel Marquette. And the reason why is that I have been going to Marquette County in Marquette, Michigan for the past decade. Part of the reason why is that when I go there, I don't have to worry about traveling while queer. In Marquette is a university town, super blue city, reliably blue county, very active pride organization there. And Marquette has all the things that you want to have in a long weekend getaway, like good restaurants, excellent bookstores, relaxing hiking, time out in nature. It's a place where I can go and refill my cup. And if that is something that you would like to do, and you can also hear my conversation with the CEO of Travel Marquette that came out earlier this week as well on Tuesday. You can go to travelmarquette.com to get your journey started. And you can join me there in October. I will be there for the Fresh Coast Film Festival. We're going to take a break. You're listening to The Gailey Show on AM 950 KTNF, the progressive voice of Minnesota, and WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Welcome back to The Gailey Show. I'm John Parker. We are coming up on the bottom of the hour. Ilana Masad is with us. Ilana is a novelist and book critic whose new novel, Beings, dropped just this week. I also want to, because I love that Phyllis, we get the story through letters, and there's this whole lost art of letter writing. And tell me about the writing of that, because it's so captured beautifully, but also I'm like, oh, remember letters?
I mean, of course, right? Like as a writer, I'm a romantic at heart. I love letters. I love the idea of letters. Do I end up writing them to people? No, but I would like to. But yeah, I mean, you know, letters were how people communicated, right? And so you want to be able to get someone's personality in there. But of course, Phyllis is also, she's sort of walking this line of both trying to maintain an intimacy with her once girlfriend, and also trying to kind of front a little bit, at least at first, because she's sort of trying to hide from her how rough things have been for her, or how emotionally difficult it is to live alone in a city where you don't know anyone yet, and you're just sort of trying to make your way. And so it was fun when I was writing it to try to sort of go between, to sort of change tones with her, you know. But it felt to me like the most, like the way that it would make the most sense to tell her story, because she has no one and she is trying to reach out for connection, even if that intimacy is not reciprocated in the way that she would like.
I also just a nice touch of she's like, why do I forgot all my high school French, but why do I always remember it when I'm writing to you? That was just such a lovely touch. All right, the archivist, no name, just the archivist.
Yes.
Why?
Well, the archivist was originally a whole different, much bigger character and part of the book. And I, for various reasons, could not sell the book that way, had to sort of change what they were doing and how they were appearing in the book. And I was inspired kind of by other novels that use these kind of slightly mysterious narrators or characters to sort of thread together other storylines. And so when I was starting to write The Archivist, I made this rule for myself that I wouldn't write for longer than a page. Every one of their chapters would only be about a page, which is, I mean, in the printed version, it looks a little different, but it sort of managed to stay somewhat like that. But the reason they don't have a name is, I think, because at this point in their life, they don't have many connections. Or they don't have many connections, they think. I think that they are much more connected than they are able to see, because they are kind of stuck in their head. And because their role in the novel is the archivist, you know, like that is what they are doing, and that is part of how they have shaped their identity. And so that's part of why they don't have a name, and also because the name of the original character is very dear to me, and I'm still hoping that I will get to write something about that original character.
And they sit in for us also, because I mean that anonymity, because they are reading Phyllis's letters that have been donated to the archive, and they are reading Barney and Betty's story, and then approached by a documentary crew that are like, you went through a UFO experience, and they're like, say what now? What are you talking about? And they're like, there's footage, and what? Which is a wild part of the novel as well. And I don't want to give away too much of the plot here. We are talking with Ilana Masad, whose newest novel, Beings, came out just this week. Something I do want to talk about is we're living in a time when basically half of America has decided to give up on facts. And according to some really disturbing research, are actually bonding over the conspiracy theories and sharing them and creating them and, making them worse. In your novel, you're exploring this line between fact and fiction. Tell us about that and what you discovered.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I discovered something. I think that what I mean is that the novel asks a lot of questions, right? And I think that I answer the ones that are relevant to the plot, but there are a lot of questions that are not answered because I don't know how to answer them. Something one of my favorite authors, Helen Oyeyemi, said once in an interview that I did with her was that she was always sort of testing stories to see what are they made of, and are stories our friends or our enemies? And that has stuck in my mind ever since, because the thing is that I understand the appeal of conspiracy theories. They're great stories, right? And we as human beings, we are storytellers. We like stories. We need stories. It's how we understand our lives. It's how we understand our day-to-day. And so the appeal of conspiracy theories is very clear to me, just like the appeal of beginning to believe in, whole races of aliens that have already visited Earth and that maybe are, I don't know, hatching eggs in the Arctic, or, I mean, who knows, right? Like there's so many conspiracy theories. There's so much to this world. And I understand the desire for a good story. And so that's one of the things that I'm questioning is like, well, how far do we stretch belief, right? Like, I am very willing to believe someone's own experience. And that's part of what I was reckoning with in the book was me coming to believe what had happened to Betty and Barney Hill as being something that they entirely believed happened to them. And whether I believe in it or not doesn't matter. And so, but how far can we push that, right? Like there have to be limits right? And if not, then like, what is reality itself? And of course, there's the heady theoretical thinking about this, and then there's the material reality in which there are conspiracy theories that are legitimately materially, physically harmful to people. And that to me is one of the places where we draw the line. Because believing something happened to someone one night, that doesn't harm anyone. But believing that vaccines are dangerous is a real legitimate harm.
The Tylenol.
Or Tylenol.
Yeah. The book is Beings. We've got a link in our show notes and on our websites, am950radio.com and heartlandsignal.com. Just look for today's episode where you can check out our Blue Sky as well to buy your own copy. You can connect with Ilana at Ilana Masad, MASAD.com. Also, subscribe to their newsletter at buttondown.com/I, like the letter I, Masad Critic. Ilana, I wish I had more time to talk with you, but this has been so delightful. Please come back anytime when you want to talk about the world or when you've got a new amazing novel to share with us.
Thank you, John. Thank you so much.
We are going to take a break here. When we come back, we're going to have Nicole Disney. You're listening to The Gailey Show on AM 950 KTNF and WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk where facts still matter. Woo!